In this video, I want to explore my work with Byron Katie, or with the work promoted by Byron Katie, because it is the single biggest shift in my life in the last year. So I'm doing this work at least once a day. So give or take 45 minutes, I'm listening to and re-listening to some of Byron Katie's YouTube videos and books on Audible. And then I try and do at least one worksheet in a day. Now, what I've done, just because it works well for me, is I've done the work on an email template that I keep in my inbox. And anytime I want to do the work, I just reply to myself, fill out the questions, and notice its impact. Now, the questions are, is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? Who do I become when I believe the thought that? Who would I be or become if I did not believe the thought? Is there a stress-free reason to hold on to the thought? Yes or no? Valid areas with 3 examples where the opposite of that thought is truer or also true. And then finally, there's a chance to say, I never want to experience this again, which is followed by, I am willing and look forward to experiencing that again. So it sounds, very abstract. I was not very keen on it when I first read the books. I just noticed that I felt 10% less depressed whenever I was listening to a Byron Katie book, and 10% is nothing to be snooty about if you're suffering from depression and want to feel less depressed. So I'm going through a divorce at the moment, and my wife, having clung very tightly as I kind of encouraged her to, meet other men and find people more compatible with her, switched from, desperately clinging to, once she finally went out, met a few men and found someone she liked, to then, dismissing me entirely as a big waste of her time. Which was, of course, her wasting her own time by absolutely passionately refusing, to have friends or meet anyone. But nonetheless, having invested a fair amount in somewhat of a marriage, somewhat of a child-rearing activity, I won't get into the details. One of the things that I wrote, that because I was feeling anxious, my lovability depends on how my wife responds, which then I turned into an abstract belief. This can make it more digestible to the lovability of a husband depends on how much his wife loves him. That's the underlying abstraction. What's interesting is Byron Katie says that she has never, ever found a yes to be true. But I found that yes and no were both true in this situation. She likes a one-word answer. Can I absolutely know that it's true? Yes, I looked into that. And it always feels a little bit uncomfortable when I go off the rails, meaning the system that Byron's putting forth is that if you look deeply and honestly and want to be free, that no thought, is ever true. And so, so why am I hearing that this is true? And, when I look deeply on this issue. And so, one of the things that, places that I go to around that is Byron Katie says that she has never found any instance where any of her thoughts are true. So your thoughts are not true, but that's a thought. So is that true, right? So there's a lot of paradoxes in these types of things. The other thing is I realized that when I project unlovability, the people closest to me do not love me. When I project unlovability, the people around me do not love me. So the lovability of a husband depends on how much his wife loves him. But how much his wife loves him is determined by the projection of the husband. And so it is, so if you want to know in some ways how much you feel lovable, you can look at how much your spouse loves you, because that there will be a parity there, right? And so, so I saw, yes, that is equally true. And when I look at that thought, it feels healing. It's like, yeah, I own, right? I own my projective ability and the way that that bounces back from the people closest to me. And so, that's a working machine. Energy goes out, it comes back, it goes out, in a system. So who do I become when I believe that thought? Present, healing, understanding that my inner and outer reality always meet, understanding that it is time for me to be more lovable by loving myself more. Who would I be if I didn't believe that thought? Empowered, powerful, peaceful, and present. And so this is a very odd discovery in this. There's only one or two worksheets that have something to reveal by detouring from the program. So valid areas where 3 examples where the opposite is true are true. The lovability of a husband does not depend on how much his wife loves him. And so, there I put, it is the husband's responsibility how much he loves himself, regardless of whatever his wife is doing. It is the wife's ability or inability to love which determines how much she loves, regardless of the lovability of the other person. Other people and God can love more than any given wife, right? And so lovability is kind of an absolute, but it of course depends on who's doing the loving, right? So a higher self, a transcendent being can be tremendously loving and compassionate to very difficult people to love, and cantankerous, manipulative children can be incredibly unloving to God, to goddess, hate the world, hate God, and so lovability is as much determined by the person doing the loving as otherwise. Now, I'll break this into a couple of different videos. So that kind of completes my exploration of that worksheet. And thank you for watching. Have you downloaded a worksheet? Have you ever filled one out? What's the result? My well-being has gone up 30% as a result of this practice. The practice is free. Takes 10 minutes to an hour. I notice I like to distract myself, so it can take an hour. But, that's still a 30% increase in sustainable well-being for free, able to be done in any country, in any place, in an hour. Now, that's a good return on, investment.